Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
All right, this is episode 32 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. We are decidedly in full off-season mode at this point, so the actual news is starting to slow down a little bit. There's honestly a lot less to talk about, so the stuff we are talking about, we're going to go a lot more in depth with. So that's kind of fun. The Bengals and the Browns do have a bit of news to talk about this week, and partly because we're only doing one episode a week right now. So we have the whole week's cycle of news to talk about. But we're also going to indulge a little bit in the speculation side of things as it pertains to a couple free agents that the Bengals and or the Browns might target. Got a couple of big names, a couple of interesting pointers. But anyway, before we do that, what are you drinking today, Thomas?
Oh, so you remember last week when I had a beer and I couldn't find my beer, but I ended up finding it. Oh, I have no idea where it's at. Freaking gray paper bags, man. You put a gray paper bag down, it just blends in with this stuff. Anyway, or brown paper bags, I'm sorry. Anyway, today's beer is actually a sour. It's a oh, my ring is so freaking bright. Let me turn down my ring so you can see this better. All right, so today's beer is a lemon drop sour.
That sounds fucking delicious.
Yeah, I love sours.
Sour's delicious, but a lemon sour, that sounds amazing.
It's a tart session ale brewed with lemon, ginger, and rosemary. Crisp and refreshing by Highwire Brewery. Okay, let's try this.
I need to find that. That sounds incredible.
You know, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds really good.
It is 4.2% alcohol. That's just enough. That's just enough to be comfortable.
So I'm doing a little experimenting with this new drug I heard about. It's called dihydrogen monoxide.
Oh.
Yeah. Water. I'm drinking water today because once again we're recording while I'm in the middle of my FedEx shift and I cannot have any alcohol while I'm driving because that's bad. Kids, don't drink and drive.
Do not drink and drive.
Also, I like lose my job, so that'd be bad too. Don't drink and drive. Don't do that. So I'm having water.
Or do any other recreational while drive.
Yeah, don't really do anything other than like drive while you're driving. But hopefully I don't need to tell you that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into these stories here. The first thing that I think I want to talk about is actually, let's go ahead and talk about the Browns first. Because we don't really have a lot of news to really report on as far as the Browns go. One thing I did hear is that, we do have one interesting little tidbit to talk about, but we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But one little interesting tidbit I did hear was Mary Kay Cabot. Is it Cabot or Cabot?
Mary J. Cabot is her name.
Cabot, okay. Yeah, Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com. Was reporting that the Browns are not interested in Richard Sherman, which I remember Thomas mentioning either last episode or the episode before that as a player that he was, I'm talking to you. Thomas, you felt that Richard Sherman was a guy that not only the Browns might go after, but that you really wanted them to go after. So Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I kind of realized that. You know what's funny though was that, first of all, I want to say this, Browns Twitter. I want to say this. I do not get enough credit on Brown's Twitter as I should. All the credit Brown's Twitter goes to like Sir Yacht and all of them. But I deserve my rightful place in Brown's Twitter because before all of y'all bums said anything about Richard Sherman, I said something about Richard Sherman first. I was the first one who said, hey, I'm kind of interested in Richard Sherman. And everybody else blew up behind me. If you don't believe me, check the dates. So I deserve my credit for that one. But that's besides the point.
Let's go ahead and give Thomas the credit he deserves for talking about a free agent who isn't going to sign with the Browns before anybody else was speculating.
It's okay. We're going to blow up soon. Don't worry. We're going to blow up soon. Don't worry. I'm not worried. We're going to blow up soon. I'm not worried about it because I know I'm gonna get my spot. I know I'm gonna get my spot. Just wait. I'm gonna get my spot. We're gonna both get our spots, Cal. Just wait. But that's not here or there. It makes sense not to go after Richard Sherman. And I know that kind of sounds crazy because I have just said recently that I want Richard Sherman, but the only problem with going after Richard Sherman is the price tag. The price tag, and are you going to give back what's your value? I don't think that Richard Sherman is going to sign a team-friendly deal. Personally, if we do sign him, I think we should sign him for 1 year. I don't think we should sign him more than 1 year if we do sign him. I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind signing him because, like I said, I want him for that attitude presence. I think that he'd be a great voice for our cornerbacks. But I think it would be more valuable to. There are free agents out there who could change the attitude of the locker room and also contribute more and be more on a team friendly deal. If that makes sense. So. Although I would love to see Richard Sherman on this team, I think that would just make this team more likable and that would raise the profile of this team and that would change the attitude of the defensive locker room and all that stuff. And I think that he will buy into Joe Woods and I think that he'd be great. Man, I'm just talking myself back into it, honestly. But the biggest thing that gets me is the price tag because I think that if we you only have so much cap space. The cap got smaller. And I don't think that he would sign to a 1 year deal. I think that he would probably want more than 1 year deal. And I wouldn't want Richard Sherman here more than next year. I think that next year we got to go all in on the championship. We got to go all in going to the Super Bowl. But after that, contract starts coming up. You got Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb's contract next. So you got that. Whether or not you're going to keep David Njoku, you got Odell and Jarvis. So, you got a lot of contracts coming up that you're going to have to honor, and we're not going to be able to keep everybody. So I just think that signing Richard Sherman would be compromising us when there's somebody else who might have a similar price tag, who might be a little bit more valuable. And we'll talk about that later on the show.
A little teaser.
Definition. I did that perfectly.
We got one particular free agent who everybody in the NFL is talking about and has been linked to every team in the AFC North. So hence we're saving it for the final segment of the episode, which is the state of the AFC North. But anyway, yeah, that was that was mainly the big bit of news I heard out of the Browns camp was that they're not going to be going after Richard Sherman, which might not be the exact thing you want to hear. But I kind of agree with Thomas on this one. I think Richard Sherman might be a little overpriced considering his profile. The profile of who Richard Sherman is compared to what you're actually getting out of him production-wise. I don't know if that'd be the right move for the Browns. Might be the right move for the Browns when the Browns, like you said, Thomas, are ready to make that Super Bowl push. But I think you're going to be better off getting free agents who are willing to take a lower price to come be part of the Browns Super Bowl run after you've established yourselves as legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Because I think after this year, you've definitely opened people's minds to Cleveland being a team that's going to be competitive at the very least in the playoffs. But I don't know if anybody's really quite at the point where they're thinking the Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. So once you get to the point where you've got the pull of the Browns being a team that are going to win the Super Bowl, then you start making those big name free agent signings because you can probably get them for a price tag that whereas right now you might be able to get one, maybe two of those kind of free agents, but you could probably get a lot more in there if everybody thinks that you're about to win a Super Bowl. So I think you're right. Maybe this wouldn't be the best season to go sign someone like Richard Sherman. Who knows? Maybe he'll be available next year. Maybe he goes on a 1 year deal somewhere. The other thing that I know you wanted to talk about, Thomas, was Odell Beckham trade talk, and
Yeah.
you don't feel that Odell Beckham should be traded.
Oh no.
So, well, now I'm not a Browns fan, so maybe my opinion doesn't, matter for a hill of beans too much here. I don't agree with that at all. I think Odell Beckham needs to be traded straight out the door. But let's. I want to hear why you think that the Browns should keep him.
I was one of those people who, I kind of came around. I flipped on this 3 times. When Odell first came to Cleveland, I was like, oh yeah, we need Odell. Odell is exactly who we need in this team. This would be great. This would be great for Baker. The hype. Everybody fell for the hype. Then I was like, when Odell first got hurt, I was like, there's no way that Baker Mayfield plays better without Odell Beckham. But he did. He performed way better without Odell. He had a great performance without Odell. But then I was like, yeah, you know what? We probably don't need Odell. He'd probably be more, he'd probably be addition by subtraction was what I was thinking. But now I'm coming back around to the fact that I think that we should keep him, man. I actually really think we should keep him because I realized a few big things, a few big reasons why we should keep him. For one, I don't think that we don't have anybody on this team that have the talent caliber of Odell Beckham. Two, I don't think that Baker Mayfield's success is because of Odell Beckham. I think his success was because of Kevin Stefanski. I think that he was going to take off eventually, whether he had Odell or not, because I felt like the system that Kevin Stefanski in place was a quarterback-friendly system. And I think that last year was so bad, it wasn't because of Odell. I just think that coaching staff and that coach last year was literally just that bad. I think that coaching staff and that coach was just that horrible that team just cannot succeed under those circumstances. And I think that it's just a testament of how bad of a coach Freddie Kitchen is. I ain't saying you're a bad person, Freddie Kitchen, but I'm saying you're a horrible coach, Freddie Kitchen. That's not here or there. Odell Beckham. So going back to what the Browns did without Odell Beckham, they won that game against Cincinnati with Baker Mayfield. They missed a single pass for the rest of the game besides the spike. Then they went off and made a playoff push. And and Baker Mayfield looked very good in those games. His picks went down. He threw like 2 picks after Odell got hurt because he wasn't forcing the ball to Odell. But one thing I realized is when Odell Beckham first came to Cleveland, the narrative is we need Odell. We need Odell to take us to the next level. We need Odell to get us to the playoffs. We need Odell for us to change the culture of Cleveland. Now that they did that without Odell, and Odell Beckham is playing on the team, the best team that he played in his entire career, the circumstances have now flipped. Odell needs us. Because the narrative is now, how can this guy can't even make it work on a team in Cleveland? Like, he can't make it work in Cleveland. Like, Cleveland's seen him without him. So if they don't need him, why wouldn't we need him? Why would I need him if I'm in Green Bay? Why would I need him in Los Angeles? If he can't make it work in Cleveland, how can I make it work? It's just kind of, so it's now coming down to the idea that we don't need him as much as he needs us. So now it's like, all right, cool. So now it's not, you can't hold our ass to the fire this time because we're not the people on advantage. It's kind of like, it's kind of like dating, how you, the unspoken things about dating, right? You know how you date, and there's always somebody in power when you date. It just is. There just is always somebody in power. There's the good-looking one, and there's the not-so-good-looking one. There's always somebody prettier when you're dating. I don't care. This is the raw truth. I don't care what you got to say about it. This is the raw truth. There's always somebody in power when you're dating. It's very rare when you see an equal power thing when it comes to dating. And this is what it is. So Odell Beckham needs us. But not only that, I think that he's going to be more in tune to making it work here because he has a lot more to play for. He has a chance to win the Super Bowl because Odell Beckham probably thinks, man, if they did all of that without me, what can they do if I'm there? If I'm the best receiver in NFL, I'm one of the best receivers in NFL. What will happen if I add myself on this team? They made the second round of playoffs. If I'm there, they lost to Kansas City by a touchdown. If I'm there, could I have got that touchdown for them? Could I have spread the field out? Can I have added another distraction to allow them to get that extra touchdown they needed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and will we be in the Super Bowl right now? He's probably thinking that in his head, because I would be. That's probably what he's thinking. Because there's not many teams in the NFL right now that are better than the Browns right now. That's something that we haven't been able to say for a very long time. There's not many teams in the NFL that have a better squad than the Browns do. So Odell Beckham, though, we're in a league where it's also an arms race. Kansas City has a lot of weapons. They have a lot of receivers. I know Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback, but he still has a lot of weapons on that team. And if we want to keep up with that team, we got to make sure that we have as many weapons as possible. And this is a serious opportunity for us to win a Super Bowl. And I think Odell Beckham is feeling the fact that he's feeling that pressure, that he has a real opportunity to not only make the playoffs, but win a Super Bowl. And I think that he's gonna galvanize the moment. I think sit on the sidelines with the medicine that he needs. And I just don't want to trade that guy, because I think that next year he's just gonna, no matter what team he plays for, the Browns, whatever, I think he's gonna have at least 1,200 yards next year. I think he's gonna go off next year. So I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't trade that dude. I would not trade a talent like that. I would keep him.
So I think I understand where you're coming from. He's got a lot of potential, but just like I liked the analogy you used about when you're dating, there's always somebody in power, and that's a fair assessment, I think. When you're dating, there's almost always somebody in power. But you see, the thing is, the Browns aren't dating Odell Beckham Jr. anymore. Like,
it's complicated.
It is complicated. That's my point. But like at the stage that Odell Beckham Jr. and the Browns are at in their relationship, I think they need to be seriously thinking about, like how is this in terms of like, a marriage more so than it is in terms of like dating, because they're not feeling each other out anymore. They already have an idea. So here's the thing: if you want of course in dating, that's just kind of what happens. But if you want like a successful, relationship that turns into like a successful marriage and stuff like that, you have got to find a way to balance that power as much as possible. You don't want to have, yes, there's plenty of marriages out there where there's one person with the power, one person with less power. But when you have relationships like that, there's almost always some level of unhappiness going on there. You don't want to have somebody dominating the other one. And Odell Beckham Jr.'s cap hit is dominating the Browns, Thomas. Do you realize this man, his cap hit this year is $15.75 million? Nobody else on the Browns has that high of a cap hit. You know who actually has the next highest cap hit is Jarvis Landry with $14.75 million. The wide receiver too. Your top two cap hits are to your wide receivers, one of which barely contributed last year. And when he did contribute, Baker Mayfield was playing worse. Baker Mayfield started playing better without Odell Beckham Jr. So you're talking about all these, free agency moves you want to make, but how are you going to make those when Odell Beckham Jr. has the highest cap hit on your entire team? Odell has way too much power over the Browns roster right now, and I don't think that you guys are going to be able to take that next step if he is going. It's just like with the Bengals. The Bengals had the problem in 2020 of the top whatever percent of their salary cap. Like the vast majority of the people making the top amounts of money on their salary cap last year were barely contributing. And that's a big part of the reason why 2020 was such a clusterfuck, is because guys like Carlos Dunlap, guys like Geno Atkins, guys like AJ Green were not really contributing last year. So you got Odell Beckham, you got the Browns in the same situation with Odell Beckham Jr. Now, luckily, the vast majority of other, top players for the Browns are working out pretty good. But I think that's a big thing that's holding them back, is that cap hit for Odell and the fact that he was just not contributing to the level that he needed to be contributing. And when he was on the field, he was causing problems. And maybe not like locker room problems, but definitely on the field problems.
But
also, like, just as a quick side note, I'm looking at your top cap hits, and I want to ask, why in the hell is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Why is your 11th highest cap hit your backup quarterback?
Chase Keenum, man.
That makes sense to me.
Chase Keenum, man.
Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum are two of your top 10 cap hits, and then like I said, the top two are Odell and Jarvis. So 4 of the top 10 players of the players you're playing the most money to are just a quarterback and a wide receiver. So what the hell?
2 questions. Okay, where are the Browns rank in cap hits in the league? And also to answer your question about why you look that up, answer your question about Case Keenum. Well, the reason why they paid so much for Case Keenum because they wanted to make sure. Basically, what they did yesterday was they did whatever they can to make sure that Baker Mayfield has the basically they idiot-proof our offense for Baker Mayfield. They wanted to make sure that Baker Mayfield had as much support as possible. They spent Colin Cowherd said it bestly, and I really don't like him, but he said that y'all did so much to make sure this guy is asleep. And I don't agree with the ending of it. He said, and you spent too much money trying to make sure this guy is asleep. I don't agree with that. I think that the Browns doing whatever they can to make sure that Baker Mayfield had all the tools that he needs to succeed. I think that's fantastic they did that. So I'm not going to say that was a negative thing, but because you have a young quarterback, you got to build his confidence. You got to make sure that he learns the offense. You got to make sure that he learns everything. And I think that signing Case Keenum was a part of that, is making sure that you have a valuable backup and somebody that can also help Baker Mayfield learn how the offense is structured and learn Kevin Stefanski and be able to work with Kevin Stefanski. So that's probably why they made so much money. But I'm pretty sure the Browns relatively have a lot of cap space compared to where are they ranked in the nation? Or not nation,
so
NFL.
In terms of available cap space right now, the Browns have about $23 million, and they're ranked 13th in the country. However, that is also not considering the fact that is considering that there are 27 players who are unrestricted free agents right now. So that $23 million that you have available is not considering the fact that you have Olivier Vernon, Kevin Johnson, Terrence Mitchell, Carl Joseph, B.J. Goodson, just to skim through here, Andrew Sendejo, Larry Ogunjobi, Cody Parkey, Rashard Higgins.
So how many of those guys you really think are going to resign though? That's the real question though, because I think that they could upgrade almost all those players, especially Sendejo, Senjego.
Well, isn't it? I mean, just y'all like Larry Ogunjobi, don't you?
What? Yeah. Larry
Ogunjobi, his market value right now is about $10 million.
I'll probably also sign B.J. Goodson, and I'll probably also sign Higgins.
Right, and Rashard Higgins' market value is about $6 million. So I mean, just Rashard Higgins. If you resign based on the market value according to Spotrac, if you resign Rashard Higgins and who is the other guy? Olivier Vernon? Not Olivier.
I would resign B.J. Goodson, and I would resign Olivier Vernon because I think you can get Olivier Vernon on a team-friendly deal, considering the fact that he just tore his Achilles.
Okay, but
so I resign all 3 of those.
If you based on the market value of Larry Ogunjobi and Rashard Higgins, you sign those 2 plus Olivier Vernon, even if you're getting him on a team-friendly deal, and what was the other one? B.J. Goodson. You sign those 4 players, then you're out of cap space. So I mean, that's why I'm questioning about both Odell Beckham Jr. and Case Keenum. That's what $22 million in cap space that's essentially wasted on a week-to-week basis.
So what you're saying is we got to trade Case Keenum. Heard.
Well, that might actually help.
I do not want to trade Odell,
Baker
man.
Mayfield seems fine, and he isn't injury prone.
I do not want to trade Odell, man. I do not want to trade that dude. I just don't want to trade him. I don't want to give him up. I just no, because it's like you understand what it's like to be a Cleveland fan. We see so many star athletes just leave us, and then you telling me that we should just give one away. when
No,
one
you're not
wants to
giving
be
him
here.
away. You're getting his salary off the books, and you're probably getting a pretty good draft pick for him too. Like at least a second.
Man. In 10 years, I'm gonna be like, man, I remember the Browns traded Odell Beckham, man. I ain't gonna be like, oh, I know, we gave him some salary. No, man, we're gonna trade Odell.
No, be honest, the way Odell has been, like, honestly, it's like for a while now, the way Odell has been for a while now, in 10 years, you're going to be looking back at an Odell trade. You're going to be like, thank God we traded that bum.
Dude, I remember, man.
He was on pace for a Hall of Fame career, but he just kind of fell off. He hasn't. It's like AJ Green. You know?
That's why he needs to be here this year, because that's what I'm saying. I think that he's just gonna. I honestly think that he's just gonna go off this year. That's another reason I think he's just gonna go off this year, because he got so much to prove this year. People like you, I think that Odell still got a lot of talent, and I think that Odell have a lot to offer. And I mean, like, you know what it is that I'm a sucker for what I've seen in person. Like, when I see a great performers in person, like, I get hooked, because like I've seen a lot of great performers. Like, that's why I've been such a big Baker Mayfield defender, is because I was at Baker. I was literally every single one of, like, most of Baker's best games that he had in his career, I just happened to be at. Like, I just happened to be at some of the biggest games Baker's ever had. But also, like, I also witnessed in person Odell Beckham go off. I never gonna forget being in Dallas, watching Odell Beckham score 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys. I'm never gonna forget that. I'm never gonna forget sitting there in that nice, breezy stadium. Oh, that was the greatest breeze of my life. That was the greatest breeze of my life. With my rum and coke, and then watching Odell Beckham bust 52 yards on the entire Arlington, Texas. Yes, I said Arlington. I didn't say Dallas. I said Arlington because, like, they corrected me like 20 times when I was there. I witnessed that man bust 52 yards in Arlington, Texas, into their end zone. Without getting touched. He's a beast, man. I'm never going to forget that run. I'm never going to forget that run in person. And because of that, I do not want to see that man go. I do not want him to be on a list of more Cleveland players who left the city. LeBron, Frankie Lindor, CeCe Sabathia, Jeff Garcia, and I'm joking.
Well, you know what,
LeBron Brown's roster.
LeBron's not won you a championship, so I feel like LeBron almost doesn't count.
Bill Belichick.
That was different. That was Art Modell.
Yeah, F that dude. F that dude. By the way, anybody who ever thinks that Art Modell should be in the Hall of Fame, he shouldn't, because Art Modell did nothing for the way he treated Cleveland. He literally, when we talk about relationships, Art Modell was the abuser of Cleveland. He abused us. Art Modell's our abuser. Never mind. We should cut that out.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, maybe the way it trailed off, but I wouldn't cut that whole thing out. That's not entirely inaccurate. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. I think we talked. I do need to talk about a little bit of Bengals news that happened this week. The Bengals do finally have their full coaching staff now completed. We did finally sign a running backs coach, who was Justin Hill, which I forget who exactly we were looking at before. He was like, he was getting hyped up quite a bit, but I actually really like this Justin Hill signing. He's a former college running back and pretty much spent his entire career as a college coach. So we have absolutely no clue how he's going to be in the NFL. Like, I mean, this is his first time ever being in the NFL, period, like whether as a player or as a coach. So that'll be interesting. But I will say he was University of Tulsa's running backs coach for the last like 5 or 6 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. But Tulsa was the number 2 ranked running team in 2020. Behind only Clemson. Like nobody else ran the ball as well as Tulsa did last year. And I mean, you can say, well, there's wildly different levels of competition that like Tulsa and Clemson are playing, which fair enough. But Tulsa, don't forget, they're not Conference USA anymore. They haven't they haven't been in a while, but when I was a kid, they were a Conference USA team. But Tulsa plays in the ACC. Tulsa's playing against maybe not like high end competition, but we're still talking about UC, we're talking about Louisville. We're talking about this is not a nobody conference. They played against even in a shortened 2020 season, Tulsa still played against what was it 4 ranked teams this year. And their marquee rushing performance of the season was 102 yards against the Cincinnati Bearcats, who were ranked number 9 at the time. This was a bowl qualifying team, so it's not like Tulsa's a group of complete nobody scrubs. I mean, they're definitely not the top of college football or anything, but I think with what I assume would be the recruiting capacity of what the University of Tulsa has. I would say that Justin Hill did a very good job coaching that running back core. So I'm actually pretty excited to see what he can do with a running back core consisting of Joe Mixon, Giovanni Bernard, and Samaje Perine and/or Travion Williams, depending on the way things go. That plus Frank Pollock taking over duties as a running game coordinator. I really like this signing, and I did not expect the Bengals to. They had all they had left to do was fill running backs coach, and I didn't expect them to. I basically expected them to go get some guy who was like, he'd probably never heard of. And I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of Justin Hill either. Have you ever heard of Justin Hill, Thomas?
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't. But I also expected to be just some guy who was kind of like a shot in the dark kind of thing. But it seems like to me that Zac Taylor is doing whatever he can to surround himself with people who have experience doing high things at the highest level that they've had experience with, which was my biggest criticism when he hired his offensive and defensive coordinator last year, Brian Callahan and Lou Anarumo. I'm like, really? We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I feel like we're just going with a bunch of nobodies because we believe in him. But I think this year with his hiring practices, I think Zac Taylor's been going a lot more after established guys who have, really given, not just give you a reason to believe in them, but have shown that they can operate at the, highest possible level given the, situation they're in. Like, I mean, you can't come out of Tulsa and be known as like a star running backs coach or anything, right? Because I mean, nobody pays attention to Tulsa. I don't think people in Tulsa pay attention to Tulsa. But for being Tulsa's running backs coach, he did an incredible job there. I mean, it's the same thing with like Marion Hobby. I hadn't necessarily heard that name before, but when I found out he was the Dolphins defensive line coach and he did a lot of work with, he basically built Saxonville. I was really impressed. Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach, the various things that he's done with, the Cowboys offensive line and that brief period of resurgence the Bengals offensive line had in 2018. And the bits of good work he was able to do for the Jets. I mean, I think Zac Taylor is realizing that he doesn't have a lot of experience and a lot of like he's got the game all going pretty good up here mentally, but actually executing it, I think, is something he's struggling with. So he's going out and he's getting guys who he can help execute the things that he knows that this roster is capable of. And I think as far as what you could possibly do as a head coach, delegating like that is invaluable. It's an invaluable skill to have.
I mean, those had a good season last year. And by the way, let me say this. I think that, I like what you're saying about how Zac Taylor surrounded himself with different coaches. And I kind of like the one thing that Bill Belichick was really good. There's a documentary. There's a documentary about Bill Belichick when he was with the Browns. There's a lot of documentaries about Bill Belichick when he was with the Browns. So what Bill Belichick did with the Browns is kind of revolutionary because he took all of these young minds and he kind of put it in the same place. And they didn't really get paid that much back then. It was kind of crazy. Like, one of those young minds was Nick Saban. Another one of those young minds was Eric Mangini. And then like put them all in a room together. It's like I want all these young minds. And it's not like every single time people do this, it seems to work if you do it correctly. Because I have two examples of this. Bill Belichick, for one, where he says, like, you know what, look, you do a little bit here, you do a little bit here, and let's make sure that we collab and make sure that I have the right people surrounding me. Then I believe that we could create something beautiful. Kind of like, Kanye West in My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy, where he had all of these different artists on his album, but he wanted to make sure that nobody overpowers each other or overstep each other. I like what Zach Taylor's doing. And you talk about Tulsa. Tulsa did not have a bad season. Like you said, they played 4 ranked opponents. But you look at their opponents, the games they lost to Oklahoma State University. They only lost by a touchdown to Oklahoma State University, who was ranked number 11 at the time. They lost to they beat ranked SMU. They lost to 6th ranked Cincinnati by only 3 points, like you mentioned, and they only lost to Mississippi in a bowl game with the SEC team by 2 points on nail biter. So it's not like this team wasn't competitive and they weren't fighting with the teams. They have a lot of value. But the biggest thing about my favorite thing about hiring assistant coaches from the college level is that you guys are going to a big draft year. Like you said, you might want to add another running back to that running back room. When you hire coaches who pay attention, you hire a running back coach from the college level who understands who understands just like which running backs might be slept on. Because like everybody always think that there's always a running back in the draft is drafted in the first round. I'm one of the people who think that it's stupid to draft a running back in the first round. I think the best running back in the draft every year is always drafted probably in the second, third round, probably in the fourth round. And I think that you guys getting this guy could always sort out that talent that nobody else is looking at, and he would know which guy is being slept on better than anybody because he is a running back coach at the college level. So I like this hire. I'm with you. I like it. Cheers to you.
Yeah. Like I said, it's kind of weird to be making this big of a deal out of like all these positional coaches. Because I mean, quite frankly, they're positional coaches. They probably don't make. I mean, they definitely make a difference. Like you said with Bill Belichick, it's who you surround yourself with that really gets you this thing. But I mean, most teams don't get that in depth into who their positional coaches are. It's just, like as Bengals fans, we've been just looking for any semblance of hope that we can over the last couple of years that, if we make a positional coach hire that's pretty good, then that's better than what we were doing before.
I mean, I do have Joe Burrow. Like,
well, it does help to have Joe Burrow. Now, granted, as the running backs coach, you're probably not doing a whole lot with Joe Burrow, but
I think I need to draft the running.
I think the opportunity to work with Joe Mixon is pretty good because I mean, he's like he ain't like in running back terms because the window for being a good running back in the NFL is so short. In running back terms, he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore.
He's still good. He's in his prime.
He's definitely. That's what I was gonna say. He's still in his prime. He's I don't know how much longer of his prime he has left. But he's definitely in his prime as a running back. What is he like? I mean, it's gonna be like his 4th season or something like that. He's only 24.
Yeah, he's young.
Jesus.
I know that pissed me off because I'm about to turn 27 in a week, and I ain't doing
right. We drafted him in 27. So we drafted him when he was 20.
Yeah, apparently.
Man, it's weird because he's like. He might be older. He might be younger than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he might be.
He's
great that works. He's definitely younger than Baker Mayfield.
Okay, he is not he is older than Joe Burrow by 5 months, I think.
Wow.
Like they were born in the same year. That's how young Joe Mixon got drafted. Holy shit.
I think that
So I take it back, by the way. He's definitely got plenty of time left.
Yeah, but your best, we talked about Odell Beckham, his injury history and stuff, and all that stuff, and his availability to be on the field. Joe Mixon wasn't very that. He had a so-so season last year. He had an okay season last year. This season, like when he was on the field, he was great, but like how often was he really on the field? I just think that I would really want to. I like Joe Mixon. I like Joe Mixon a lot. I think Joe Mixon is very talented, but I think that one of the things Joshua draft, I think a running back is a dire need for y'all. I think y'all should draft another running back. I think y'all should get another running back in there. I think
Why?
Bernard.
Why?
Well, all right. So you got GNR and Bernard, right, and Joe Mixon, right? So Bernard, he's good, he's okay, but like look at his age.
Yeah, but you got Samaje Perine, who's like, I think Perine could be a backup running back anywhere in the NFL right now. He's our third.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't really know much about him, so I guess I just think that y'all got another running back though. It'll just solidify your running back room, and I think I got like a really good running back. I'm like the like,
and then we also got Travion Williams, our fourth running back, who I think would be, I think at least competing for a backup running back job anywhere in the NFL. So, I mean, we got 4 running backs right now. I don't think we can fit any more running backs on the roster.
Yeah, but I mean, like, because I'm looking at it like this. I think the Bengals can make the playoff next year. I don't think they can. I think they will make the playoff next year. And like, I'm looking at terms as Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and then we have the Browns have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they also have Dearness Johnson and Dante Hilliard and Hilliard. But they got rid of Hilliard because Hilliard was okay, but then at the end of the day, like Hilliard wasn't, like he was good, but how good was he really? And then Dearness Johnson was okay, but when Nick Chubb was gone, the production was lost. And like, it kind of goes to the idea that running back's the least valuable position in the NFL, but it kind of is for a reason because sometimes like the running backs go only as far as your offensive line, but at the same time, like I think that you can find it's always better running backs to find. And I think if you have a chance to upgrade that position and then 3rd or 4th round, I might take a swat at that. Because think about all the running backs in the NFL that are late round or undrafted.
Well, that's fair. Then the Bengals do typically do that just because, running back careers are A, so short-lived, and B, they're kind of a dime a dozen at this point. Like, there are so many talented running backs out there.
But let me ask you this. How reliable do you think that Joe Mixon will play, 14, 15 games next year? Do you think
Joe probably Mixon not so much?
Then I would definitely draft a running back.
But that's my point. We already have 4 running backs. Like, I don't see what we need another running back for.
Because do you think though? I think Joe Mixon, when he's on the field, he could play at a Pro Bowl caliber level when he's on the field. But how often he's on the field?
Well, I think it might have made more sense to like move on from like not pay Joe Mixon what we paid him, and then move on from Giovanni Bernard because we also paid him a decent amount as well, and draft another running back at that point because I do think it's more of the game in the NFL right now is cycling through young running backs instead of paying older running backs.
Considering,
that's what we should have done from the beginning. But considering the fact that those contracts already are there now, There's no getting out of Mixon's contract right now. Like you could I think you could cut Gio and get some of that money back. But even if you cut Gio, you still got Samaje Perine and Travion Williams. So I mean, like, yeah, maybe I'd bring in like an undrafted running back just for the sake of competition, but I wouldn't draft a running back any higher than like the 6th round, honestly.
Mixon in 2019 played 16 games and had 1,137 rushing yards preseason, and in 2018 he played 14 games with 1,168. Last year he played only 6 games. So I guess let me take that back. He's been available. He's been steadily available the last few years. Maybe just had a bad season, and like we say, he's still very young. Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's not necessarily Mixon. It's more or less Bernard that scares me. And you said you have under running backs, and you trust those. So I give you that. But I don't know. The running back room for Cincinnati just doesn't thrill me. And maybe that's just because I just don't know the other running backs well. But I think the Browns drafted another running back too, actually, because Kareem Hunt's contract's up. I think the Browns should spend like a 4th or 5th round pick on a running back. As crazy as that sounds, because like you said, we're cycling through running backs. I don't think because I think that when Kareem Hunt's contract comes up next year, I think you should let him walk because I think that you get a young running back that can match his production. So I think Nick Chubb is vital, but I think that the Browns. I wouldn't be opposed to the Browns drafting a running back in the 4th round because there's so many good running backs in a college game that just they just fall. The
only thing as far as the Bengals running back room, I would sort of like, I don't necessarily agree, but a lot of Bengals fans might, and the Bengals also might be considering it, is, like I said, the fact that Giovanni Bernard, his contract is not exactly ideal considering the role that he plays as the backup running back.
Yeah.
So
you gotta get rid of him.
But my only thing is, if you potentially get rid of him, which by the way, don't get rid of my boy. Giovanni Bernard, that's my boy. But
I mean, like you
but anyway, that's an emotional
revenge.
argument. And if you get rid of Giovanni Bernard and it works out, then whatever. I'm more of a Bengals fan than I am a Giovanni Bernard fan in the first place. But I will say, if you're gonna do that, I still don't know if drafting a running back, like especially that high, is really the right idea because you've got Joe Mixon under contract for a while. And like I said, you've got Samaje Perine, you got Travion Williams, who are most likely going to be solid, like 2nd and 3rd options. And, even if you're not confident, if you don't want to like put all your eggs in that basket, yeah, you can go maybe get a late round running back or an undrafted running back. But I wouldn't invest very high in a running back if I was the Bengals right now. Absolutely.
Oh no, I understand. I wouldn't say any because y'all got to fix the offensive line and y'all got to address that defense. So those are my first 2 priorities. But I'm saying if it's the 5th round, I think the 5th round is a great time to take a running back. I think you can find some diamonds in the rough in the 5th round. I think if you're in the 5th round and you see this little speedy running back just sitting there, how many picks the Bengals got this year? By the way, out of curiosity, I didn't even look at that.
I think just 7. Well, no, 8
just
because
7?
of Carlos Dunlap. We got an extra 7th round pick.
All right. So if I'm sitting there in the 5th round and I feel like I got some good offensive linemen and I feel like I got some good players on defense and I see a running back that's sitting there that I think that has some untapped potential that people are sleeping on, I might consider taking him. But it just depends. It depends on the situation. It all depends on the situation because I don't think. Cause I'm not saying that the running backs are our number 1 need because it's not. It's not. But I like your receiver room. I think that Ross still is solid. I think that I love Higgins and then Tyler Boyd. I think our receiver room is good. Quarterback, you're good at quarterback. You got good tight end, Drew Samples. You need help on your offensive line. That's what you need on offense. But if I were to look at the second thing that I would improve on the Bengals offense, and I was just sitting there, I'm like, all right, we got some good offensive linemen. We did good on our defense. If I was looking at something just to address, like I'll consider running back. I would consider it. I'm not saying they should do it, I'm just saying it's just something that I would consider. Like,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I just, just because like
would,
I don't like you said, I don't trust Bernard. Like I think that I think Bernard is like at the age. Thank you for your service. We appreciate everything you've done for us. You're a running back. You get up there in age. You're up there in age, and you're taking a lot of cap space. And we feel like we can get better production from your position in the draft. And like even if you just get running back this year, like he's going to be a rookie, so you can always he don't got to be a world beater this year because I wouldn't assume that you would want to have Bernard on your team by next year. I mean, why not get a head start on it? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe you just draft a running back next year, but I do think that drafting a running back is in the Bengals' near future, as well as the Browns' future too. I think the Browns are going to draft a running back this year next year, but that's actually a very easy thing to say.
I don't feel that there's enough. Like I said, unless it's like with one of those 2 7th-round picks or something like that, I wouldn't invest very heavily in running back in any way, shape, or form because the Bengals just have too many other needs and they already have too many good running backs. I feel.
Man, it's really coming down out there. Yo, real quick off topic because I was thinking about this when you was talking about Toaster and the AAC. By the way, I want to say this: I think college football is broken. Like I know it's like completely off topic and completely from left field, but if I don't say it now, I'm going to forget about it. I think college football is broken. Because like I feel like we spend too much attention to the Power 5 conferences because in reality, when we talk about the Power 5 conferences, we're really talking about a Power 5 team. Because like in the Power 5 conferences, the reality is that it's not that these conferences are head and above that much. Like the AAC, for example, right? I think the AAC has a lot of consistent teams. So like Purdue, for example, right? Purdue is on caliber I think Purdue is like on caliber, is on par with all the AAC teams. But Purdue is in the Big Ten. But if this coach you talk about played for, it was part of Purdue, like, oh, he's not part of a Big Ten school. Well, I don't really think Purdue is that much head over heels better than most AAC teams. But in fact, the Big Ten as a whole, like the only team that really scares you in the Big Ten is Ohio State. Like, what have the Big Ten really done lately besides Ohio State? Like, I mean, I guess Wisconsin had a good year or two here and there. And I guess Wisconsin would be great in the AAC, but you know what I mean? Like just look at the last couple of years. Look at how Cincinnati almost beat Auburn. Who they played? Was it Auburn they played? Who they played last year in the bowl game? Let me double check before I start spewing at non-facts. But like they lost. I know they lost. They lost a really close game in the championship game. But it showed that they could be there. So anyway, but like I just don't think that. Like I just think that college football is broken because it's the only sport. If you don't only have to be in the right conference, you have to be the right team. So not only do you have to be in the Big Ten, the SEC, because like nobody cares about the Pac-12 either. Like even if you're a Pac-12 team, you got to be extraordinary to get into the college football playoff. It's literally, even the Big 12. It's literally you have to be. Not only you have to be in either the Big East, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, y'all get it. You have to be one of the big name teams. You have to be either Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, or because let's be honest, Northwestern is never going to be in the top 4. Northwestern's never going to be in the top 4. Purdue's never going to be in the top 4. Mississippi State, come on, man. Like. But Alabama could lose 2 games in the same conference as Mississippi State and then make it to the college football playoff. And I'm not saying Alabama's not good. I just think college football is broken. I think that there is a discrepancy of how we pay attention to teams. And I think there's a discrepancy of which teams get the recruits and everything. I think college football is broken. College basketball is way better because in reality, college basketball, any given year, any given game, anybody can win. Look at Gonzaga. Look at Xavier. Look at freaking Villanova. I stopped watching. Anybody who tells me that college football is better than the pros, I immediately ignore them. Because I don't care what none of y'all say. College football is not better than the pros. College football is not better than the pros. Because in the pros, a team like Green Bay is able to have one of the most storied franchises in NFL history. And that's something that can only happen in NFL. But in a college football, it's all about football royalty. It's all about the good old boys club. It's all about the blue bloods. No, F that, man. F that, man. And then don't get me started. Now that's another story. But like, man, I'm not a college football fan, if you can tell. I like the players. I love the players, but I hate the structure. I hate the structure. I think they should, at the very least, make it 8 teams. Make the college football playoff 8 teams at the very least. Like that's it. That's all I got. That's a little off topic. I just want to say that.
I kind of agree. I think, although I will say it seems kind of pointless just because how top heavy college can be.
Yes.
Like why would you want to bother putting 8 teams in a college football playoff when Alabama's just going to win anyway?
I think that they should at least get a chance. Like I think like UCF a couple years ago, man. Like UCF when they beat Auburn. Man, Alabama was really good this year though. Alabama was freaking Alabama, man. Like I'm like, how did they get so good? I don't know. I don't know how you fix the competitive balance in college football, but there is definitely a competitive balance problem in college football right now. It's blatantly obvious, and we just ignore it. We talk about the competitive balance in basketball, but like like it is literally like in basketball, they say it's the same like 8-10 teams, but in college football, they have 129 eligible teams in the FBS. Only 3 to 4 teams are realistically able to win a national championship within the next 5 years.
Right. I think we might be getting a little bit off topic here, though. So
yeah, I know. It's just, it's football talk, and I don't know. I just want to say that because I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
it. We do need to go ahead and I think we're running a little over time here. Yeah. We need to go ahead and get into our last topic of discussion of the day, which is as we don't do it every week in the off season because there's not always stuff to talk about, but we do have the state of the AFC North to talk about this week. And the state of the AFC North right now is just watching what happens with J.J. Watt. The Houston Texans earlier this week released J.J. Watt, if you hadn't heard, which if you hadn't, then you're probably living under a rock. But if you hadn't heard, yeah, J.J. Watt is free agent. And he has been linked to every single team in the AFC North so far. Now, some links are a little bit stronger than others. But everybody in the AFC North needs edge help. Now, there's some great edge rushers in the AFC North, but everybody needs some help. Like, the Browns, for example, probably not going to be re-signing Olivier Vernon. So they need to go get some help. Like Myles Garrett can't do it all by himself. Yeah. The Cincinnati Bengals, if we re-sign Carl Lawson, we still need edge rusher help because, he's a very, very, very good edge rusher, but that is the perfect example of a guy being really, really good yet can't do it all himself. Yeah. The Pittsburgh Steelers. There's various reasons why J.J. Watt's right. There's various reasons why J.J. Watt's been linked there. Not least of which the fact that both of his brothers, T.J. and Derek, both play in Pittsburgh. So he's been linked there. Although I will say the problem, I don't see that one happening. I've heard a lot of hype, a lot of people, especially a lot of scared Bengals fans, have been saying oh God, what if J.J. Watt goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then we have to face T.J. and J.J. twice a year? And I'm like, guys, do you realize that Pittsburgh is in cap hell?
Yeah, they're not.
It's not happening. Even if they cut even if they get out of Ben Roethlisberger's contract, I still don't think that they would necessarily go after J.J. Watt.
They're paying all that money for that quarterback who don't want to retire.
Right. I mean, it would help to get rid of Ben Roethlisberger, but it wouldn't solve your problem. So I cannot. I mean, as the New Orleans Saints have shown us, the salary cap may not actually really exist. But the truth of the matter is, it does actually exist, and the Steelers can't just do whatever they want, believe it or not, even though they act like it sometimes. But the salary cap says that J.J. Watt to the Steelers makes absolutely no sense. Then, like I said, there was the Bengals need edge rusher help. And in particular, Tyler Boyd recently tagged J.J. Watt in a tweet. And he was trying to recruit J.J. Watt to – it was probably like half in jest, but it was still kind of that whole, like, Tyler Boyd trying to recruit J.J. Watt to come play in Cincinnati. And, hey, we need edge rusher help. And, hey, a bunch of Bengals fans got like, oh. But, I mean, like, come on. Come on. Let's be honest. J.J. Watt's not coming to Cincinnati. Why? Because J.J. Watt is a 32-year-old defensive end. He's an edge rusher. And he's like a potential Hall of Famer. So all he really wants to do right now, I think, is get paid and win a Super Bowl. The Bengals can do one of those things. Bengals can pay him. They probably won't, though, because, J.J. Watt and Bengals fans have not really historically gotten along very much, with his comments about Andy Dalton and the Red Ryder BB gun. And, that's funny. That was funny. But at the same time, there's a little bit of bad blood there, I think. And I don't know how the Bengals front office really feel about that. I also don't really know how J.J. Watt would really mesh with Zach Taylor all that much. Maybe he'd do well with Marion Hobby, but I don't know. I just the link to the Bengals does exist, but I don't think that it really makes a lot of sense. I think, it's really just wishful thinking on that one.
All right, we got Joe Burrow.
Well, there's that, but I think J.J. Watt wants to win a Super Bowl, and I'm not saying the Bengals can't win a Super Bowl before J.J. Watt retires, but I am saying it's not going to happen in the next year or two. It's like almost definitely not going to happen in the next year or two, and J.J. Watt wants to win a Super Bowl in the next year or two. So he's not coming to Cincinnati. There's the Baltimore Ravens, who he was linked to because they hired his defensive line. The guy who's been the Texans' defensive line coach since 2016 is, I believe, now the Ravens' defensive end coach or defensive line coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's Anthony Weaver anyway. But he is, he's the defensive line coach and run game coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Man, a lot of teams are just like doing that whole run game coordinator thing now, aren't they? Interesting. That is a new phenomenon that I have not seen a whole lot of before recently, but I don't know. I guess it worked out for the Rams. Now everybody's doing it. He's now taken an elevated position with the Baltimore Ravens, and reportedly J.J. Watt and Anthony Weaver are still like relatively close. Like they have a relatively close friendship, which is, I think, kind of I think it's definitely interesting. It shows, it just shows the quality of friendship those two would have, or business relationship or whatever that those two would have. Because don't forget, Anthony Weaver was a Bill O'Brien hire, and Bill O'Brien has done nothing but piss J.J. Watt the hell off. So you would think he wanted nothing to do with the Bill O'Brien era Texans, but him and Anthony Weaver are apparently still very close. And that, and pretty much all of the Ravens pass rushers are edge rushers are potentially going to be free agents this offseason. So you got Matt Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, Tyus Bowser, Pernell McPhee. They could all be gone. So that's why a lot of people are thinking, maybe J.J. Watt to the Ravens. And then there's the Browns.
Yay!
So
I went through that whole thing. I was waiting for you to mention it. Oh yeah.
Well, there's a reason I said the Browns last, and it's because again, our friend Mary Kay Cabot has reported.
Mary Kay.
Yeah, she has reported on Cleveland.com that the Browns are one of J.J. Watt's preferred destinations. So it sounds like he's got like a top three as far as the destinations he wants to go to, and the Browns are in that top three. The other two
Awesome.
are including Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers
Oh
and
man.
his home state Green Bay Packers.
Oh
So,
man, that's some tough competition.
yeah, well, I mean, honestly, if I had to bet, like not to burst your bubble or anything like this, but if I had to bet, the the Browns are probably a solid number
Third.
three in that list,
Yeah.
like easily third in that list, because
Yeah.
don't forget he's from Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
I mean, and he wants to go win a Super Bowl. The Packers, have been so close for years. And then, I mean, like there's no reason why Tom Brady isn't going to go win number 8.
I know. I'm just thinking about when you said that, my realization of like this whole time, I was this whole podcast, I was flying high about, like, oh yeah, we got him. We got this dude. And then you mentioned those two teams, and I was just like, oh.
I'm sorry, I made you sad.
It's okay. Okay, I'm a Clevelander. You were used to disappointment.
Yeah.
And we can't get J.J. Watt. Give me Richie Sherman.
Supposedly, from what I read, again, he was, quote, seriously considering the Browns. And that is due to the fact that the Browns are one of the few teams that meet all of the criteria that he wants, which, by the way, this should encourage you. As a Browns fan, that your team meets these criteria, because his criteria were potential for a Super Bowl run.
Oh yeah.
The cap space, first of all, the cap space to pay him a good salary. The supporting cast, so he feels the Browns are one of the best teams in the NFL as far as putting a team around him to really be competitive. And notably, the culture of the team right now. So the Browns culture has gone from probably the most toxic situation in the NFL to something where J.J. Watt is saying, "Hey, I want to go to that team." So, I'm going to say for Browns fans, thank you, Kevin Stefanski.
Oh yeah, thank you, Kevin. Can I make a pitch? Can I make a pitch to? Okay, J.J. Watt. If you are watching this, I am talking directly to you.
If you are watching this,
we can do whatever we can. We got to make sure J.J. Watt hears this message, because I'm going to tell you, J.J. Watt, why you should become a Cleveland Brown. The biggest reason why you should become a Cleveland Brown. Well, there's a couple reasons you should become a Brown. One, don't you want to beat your little brother? Like, there's nothing better than beating your little brother. Like, I swear to God, I love beating my little brother and stuff. Like, it's a fun thing to beat your little brother. 2, you want to win a championship. I get that. Cleveland, they will provide you with a championship. But 3, and the biggest reason why, J.J. Watt, don't you want to be great? Don't you want your legacy to go down as something great? Now, I'm not saying you haven't had a bad career. I'm not saying that you haven't done a lot of great things. I'm not saying that you haven't impacted the game like nobody else have ever before. But I'm saying this, J.J. Watt, if you become a Cleveland Brown, nothing will elevate your legacy like that. If you win a championship, if you win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, Ohio in 2022, if you win a Super Bowl in Cleveland Browns' 75th anniversary, the team that have many legacy players, many legendary players, Jim Brown, Merritt Motley, Otto Graham, J.J. Watt. Don't you want to be on that list, J.J. Watt? Don't you want to be one of the people who's known to have brought the championship, the first Super Bowl ever to Cleveland, Ohio, the city that is football royalty? You know how much we love football up here? I promise you, JJ, you can go anywhere else in the world. And nobody loves football like we do in Ohio. No one does. And if you come here and if you're a part of a championship, a Super Bowl winning team, and you are there with Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, and you're a part of that team, you'll go down as legendary. So do you just want to be great, or do you want to be legendary? Because you want to be legendary, you would not shy away from the challenge. You will come to Cleveland and you will help us win the Super Bowl in 2022. That's my pitch.
So I would say I don't want to ruin your pitch, but I'm also a human being who does not want to see J.J. Watt in Cleveland. So maybe I do want to ruin your pitch. I don't know. But I just want to go ahead and rewind a little bit real quick. I wouldn't say J.J. Watt has impacted the game more than anybody else has ever impacted the game before.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I meant in the last 10 years defensively. Maybe Von Miller.
Is J.J. Watt a Hall of Famer? Yeah, I think he is. He's one of the best defensive players that we've seen, for years. But I wouldn't say he's the best defensive player.
In the last 10 years?
10 years.
In the 2010s too. What? Von Miller? Jalen Ramsey
in the
2010s. Jalen Ramsey pretty good.
Well, part of it that
guy that played for the Rams.
Aaron Donald, right? Aaron Donald's insane. But I think the main thing about J.J. Watt is he had such an insane impact early on in his career, and since then, it's not that he's been bad, but he just hasn't been the same. He's been getting hurt a lot, and he just hasn't been on the field. It kind of reminds me of Geno Atkins, right? Like I felt Geno Atkins, a lot of people felt like Geno Atkins was on track for a Hall of Fame career. And then he just, recently he's just been constantly hurt. And, now not so sure if he's going to make it. I feel like he'll probably make it one day, but it's going to be one of those things where it might be one of those like posthumous inductions, like years and years and years in the future. Just because, he's been waiting so long his family at that point would have been waiting so long, and he's going to, get in eventually at some point because he did a lot of good things at one point. But whereas J.J. Watt, I think he'll probably get in faster than Geno Atkins. But even then, I definitely wouldn't consider him a first ballot Hall of Famer right now. I mean, if he goes to Cleveland and wins the Super Bowl in Cleveland, then,
you'll be in the Hall of Fame, JJ.
Forget about it. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But even then, I would say that J.J. Watt is the best defensive player of the last 10 years. I would not say that. I say there was a time when he certainly looked like he had the potential to be, but I think because of all those injuries, it just hasn't sustained itself enough.
See, JJ, you see this hater right here? JJ? You see that hater that I am sharing this podcast with? Don't you want to shut this hater up? You would come to Cleveland, JJ.
Well, you know what? If he didn't shut me up after the Red Ryder BB gun comment, then I don't think he's going to shut me up anyway. Look, I kind of look like Andy Dalton, don't I? With the hair. Andy Dalton doesn't have a mohawk, but still.
I mean,
I'm just as white. Look at that.
You ever
veins in my cheek. I'm sure.
You ever wonder what goes through certain athletes' heads while they play for your favorite team? I do.
What, while they play for the team?
Yeah.
Oh,
I wonder what Andy Dalton thinks.
I've always kind of wondered, how AJ Green. Well, no, because I know how AJ Green feels. Because AJ Green doesn't exactly hide how he feels. He's super loyal to the Bengals because the Bengals are the team that drafted him, and that's just how he feels about it. But at the same time, guys like Chad Johnson, it's always weird thinking about Chad Johnson, this big, almost larger than life figure. But he wasted his whole career on the Bengals. He will be remembered as a crazy person, but he won't really be remembered like he should be remembered as a football player. Because he played for the Bengals. And I mean, you can see that in the number of Hall of Famers that we have. You know how many Hall of Famers we have, Thomas?
How many do you have?
One.
For real?
Yeah, we have Anthony. I mean, we have a little more than that. Terrell Owens.
Well, I mean,
Hall of Fame, right?
Paul Brown. Yeah, Paul Brown's the Hall of Fame, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I meant players. I meant players who played a significant chunk of their time in Cincinnati. We got one, and then Anthony.
That describes themselves as a Bengal.
What?
that went into the Hall of Fame after the Bengals.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
That's unfair, dude. Because y'all like who's the closest? Like, y'all should have more. Because
we should have more. There should Ken Anderson should be in. Isaac Curtis should be in. Ken Riley should have got in before he died.
I mean, they don't go to 2 Super Bowls. I mean,
yeah. I mean, now are the Bengals like the most like noteworthy team in all of football history? Absolutely not. But like, should we have more than one Hall of Fame year? Yes, we should. Corey Dillon should be in the Hall of Fame.
That's crazy.
Willie Anderson should be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, people in Cleveland trying to get Clay Matthews in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in the Hall of Fame. I don't understand. It baffles me that Clay Matthews not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, they want to. I mean, players that go in the Hall of Fame are usually. It matters how the team's doing. It's kind of like, what have you done for me lately type of shit.
Clay Matthews, like the third?
No, the second. Clay Matthews the second.
Like his dad?
Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Is he not?
No, he's not. It's crazy. That's what I'm saying. He's not. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Let's see. Clay Matthews Jr. Oh, okay. I'm thinking of Bruce Matthews.
Oh, Clay Matthews should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Clay Matthews, the linebacker. Yeah, he probably. Well, yeah, maybe. I
guess when you look at the stats, because when you look at the stats, you always think like the stats compared to what they'd be like today. But like that dude was just he's scared of the offenses. I don't understand I don't get it.
Well, I can tell you what it most likely has to do, just looking at it, and this is the same reason the Bengals players aren't in the Hall of Fame, is because you look at his resume, and his resume says 4-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily scream Hall of Famer. That's like maybe one day you could see that guy in the Hall of Fame if like they start running out of people. But now I mean, I don't know too much about Clay Matthews, the father of, the Clay Matthews that we all know. Well, our generation knows anyway. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because I don't really know much about him. So, he could be a hell of a lot better than he looks just like at a first glance. But that's the thing is at first glance, I can see why people aren't necessarily voting him into the Hall of Fame because he just doesn't have the accolades. And it looks like he just doesn't really have the stats either, which is kind of a bullshit metric to use. It should be based on impact, but and the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it shouldn't be based on, but well, okay. Then again, you think about it, the Hall of Fame isn't necessarily a Hall of Greatness. It's the Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of famous individual football players. It's not necessarily the Hall of the greatest football players, just based on the name alone. So, I mean, if they're going for, pure fame, then yeah, Clay Matthews, the father of the linebacker who just retired last year, is probably not a Hall of Famer. Same with, Corey Dillon, same with Isaac Curtis, same with, all these Bengals players that I just named off. They weren't famous. So, but then, Chad Johnson was famous. But then again, he also ended his career with a domestic violence incident, so that might, keep him out at this point. You never know. At least for a while.
First of all, I'm looking at these tweets about JJ Watt, and I really hope he comes to Brown. But also, Clay Matthews, man, I think that a lot of times that, when we look at these, a lot of times these Hall of Fame voters, we vote based off of, like you said, popularity and what fans think of them. But any player that played against Clay Matthews would says that he is definitely a Hall of Famer because he because they said that he impacted the defense. He changed the whole offensive scheme, and he done that consistently. And he was a consistently impactful player. And like it's hard to quantify stats on defense because, like, when you're on offense, like when you're on offense, what you do always show up on the stat sheet on offense, right? So you're a receiver, you ran the right route, you made the catch. That's always going to show. The only time, like, maybe you stretch the field because he's a deep threat. Like, that won't show up on the stat sheet. But when you're on defense, man, when you're doing things, there's so many things on defense that won't show up on the stat sheet that you might do. Like, I think like tackles are the most misleading stat in football because, like, somebody bust out for a 50-yard run and you tackle them on a 2-yard line. Oh yeah, you tackled them, but yeah, they just had a 50-yard run. Like, how much on defense do communication comes in? How much on defense? Like, for example, when they were double teaming Myles Garrett on defense, so they could when they're double teaming Myles Garrett on defense and they're having the running back run the other way so they can stay away from Myles Garrett. That don't show up on the stat sheet. But that happens. So how do we ignore that? I think that it's hard to quantify somebody's greatness on defense, especially when you're just talking about fans. So I think that I don't know. All the people who talk about him think that he should be a Hall of Famer.
It's fair. Like I said, I'm not saying he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying, as somebody who doesn't know much about Clay Matthews Sr., well, that wouldn't be Clay Matthews Sr., it'd be Clay Matthews the second, Clay Matthews Jr. Somebody who doesn't know much about Clay Matthews Jr., just at first glance, I can see why people haven't put him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, from what you're saying, it definitely sounds like he should be, and he just didn't get the recognition that he needed, that he deserved. But, that's exactly what I'm saying about the Bengals. There's a lot of players who really should be in the Hall of Fame, but because they didn't get the recognition they deserved, it might never happen. That's unfortunate.
Because I only got one Hall of Famer.
Yeah. But I don't want to leave. I don't want to end this episode on a negative note. So
me neither.
Real quick. We got a dog. That's one way to not leave on a negative note. But real quick, I just want to get back to JJ Watt. And if I had to put money on where he's going to play football next year, it would be the Green Bay Packers. Just knowing the kind of person that JJ Watt is, I can see him wanting to go home and compete for a Super Bowl and play for a team that can pay him. It seems like the Packers would be the best fit, but it seems like the Browns are finalists. So, he might go to Cleveland. That's a real thing that might happen. I think the Browns definitely have more cap space than either the Packers or the Buccaneers. So you got that going for you.
Coco, you think we'll get JJ Watt? Is that a yes?
Looks unsure.
The chillest dog ever.
JJ Watt?
Because we're like, why you hold me like that? All right, Coco, you get down now. Get down. My little dog's piggies, so tiny. But yeah, no, I hope so, man. I hope we get him. I think he'll be a great addition to this team. I hope we get him, man. They're like Brown's Twitter is going crazy right now to try and get him. What's his name? CJ McCollum, the basketball player, the shooting guard for the Portland Trailblazers, just tweeted out that he believes that the Browns should sign JJ Watt. So everybody's trying to get him. There's a push for him. Let's hope we get him.
What does CJ McCollum have to do with the Browns?
He's from Canton, Ohio, and he's a huge Browns fan.
Oh, really?
How do you not know that? Yeah, how do you not know that?
Why would I know that? Why would I know? Because first of all, I don't follow basketball. Second of all, I'm not from Cleveland. I don't follow pro basketball.
Oh, okay. Well, you shouldn't, because the NBA is like all screwed up right now.
My team got taken from me 12 years ago, so I'm still kind of salty about that.
The Seahawks.
Well, the Supersonics.
I'm sorry, the Supersonics. Same city, wrong team.
The Superhawks.
They get the Seahawks will come back. Not Seahawks. The Supersonics will come back. And they're just gonna be bad for 15 years before they finally.
You know what? I would rather have a bad team than no team at all.
Yeah, well, hey man, look,
and that's what I'm constantly trying to tell Bengals fans who are like, well, if they leave the city, then good. They're not any good anyway. And I'm like, I'd rather have a bad Bengals team than no Bengals.
Okay, man, we might lose the Indians too.
Why would you lose the Indians?
Because like people aren't going to the games. For one, they can't keep none of the players because they don't want to pay them. It's a whole thing. I don't think they will because the Indians have, they changed the name. Like I don't really have anything. That's another story. But it just doesn't. There's a possibility that they might lose the Indians. I don't think they will. I think that when it gets down to, I think when it comes down to it, Cleveland's not gonna let the Indians leave. But there's a chance. I don't think the Bengals gonna leave Cincinnati either. I think what's gonna happen is Joe Burrow is gonna galvanize the city. I think the Bengals are gonna need a new stadium. It's gonna be called the house that Joe Burrow built and all this stuff. I think that's all. It's all in your future. I think Joe Burrow's gonna really turn around that franchise.
Back when we had to get rid of the old stadium and build Paul Brown in the first place, a big reason why the taxpayers signed off on that because we had just gone through, it was still the 90s, so things still didn't feel great, but we were going through kind of a period of resurgence with the whole Shake and Blake thing. Jeff Blake kind of, still like playing like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback earlier in that decade. And then, we brought Boomer Esiason back. And then, there was some hope. We had just drafted Achilles Smith and we didn't know he was trash yet. So at that point, I think that's it was the drug of hope. So I think you're right. Joe Burrow might drug this city with hope again. And that might have been part of the reason why they drafted him in the first place was because they knew they needed an excuse to get the city's money again. Now, I won't get to vote on it because I live in Fairfield, Ohio, so we don't actually vote on Cincinnati issues. But
or maybe I need a renovation, man. Maybe just a very expensive renovation. Sometimes a renovation can be just as good as a new stadium. I mean, they renovated the Cavs stadium, and it is awesome. That's an arena, not a football stadium, but it's still similar concepts. They renovated the Indian Stadium, which I was talking about. The Indian Stadium is actually very nice. Actually really nice. The Indian Stadium is actually really cool too. Yep. The Browns get the worst stadium out of the three, but the they spent, they do. The Browns got the absolute worst. Like the Indian Stadium, the Brown and the Cavs Stadium are really nice stadiums. Really nice stadium. But the Brown Stadium is just like, it's just bland. It's not bad. It's just bland. He's like, man, this is so bland. Like this is white milk.
I was actually looking at going to a Cleveland Browns game a couple of years ago. Me and my friends were gonna do a road trip up to like the Bengals were gonna play in Cleveland, and we were gonna road trip.
Tickets were like $5 and $12.
No, it was worse than that. Like, I mean, there was this one section where you could get like tickets for like $4, like a pop. Now, but I mean, granted, the seat was like you were literally sitting. I don't even know why the seat exists, but the seat was like literally placed behind a pillar. Like the seat was actually behind a pillar, and I'm just sitting here like, why would you? Okay, so now do the Browns have kind of like open roam? Because like the Bengals kind of have that. Like it used to be. I remember when me and my dad went to games when I was little. You had to sit in the exact seat that like they had ushers and stuff checking your tickets.
So you mean like kind of like
if you didn't go into the section that your ticket said that you were supposed to be in, then somebody would be like, oh, you can't be in this section. Like now, I mean, you can definitely get kicked out for sitting in somebody's seat if they're like, hey, I really want that seat. They can go get like an usher, and the usher will kick you out. But at the same time, nobody's gonna like nobody's checking your tickets if you're sitting in the wrong section or something. So I mean, really, you can kind of roam around and stuff like that. Is that the same way at the Brown Stadium, or are they a lot stricter about the regulations there?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, people are usually just good to find their seats, but there's not really many places that you could go and really see the game. At the Indian Stadium is very open. The Brown Stadium, it's not that the Brown Stadium really just not. I guess that's one of the reasons why I don't like it compared to the Cavs and the Indian Stadium is that because like in the Brown Stadium, like there's just nowhere else to go but your seat and like the bar. Like there's no real like area. So like for example, like the Cavs Stadium, they put a bar in the middle of the stadium, which is really cool. And they actually put it up in the bleacher, like in the cheap seats. So like they're like, hey, you might have cheap seats, but you can come chill at this giant bar that we have in the middle of the stadium, see the game, great view and everything. That's really cool how the Cavs Stadium set up. And then the Indian Stadium, they also have a bar in the middle of the field. And there's so much to do at the Indian Stadium. Like there's so many places you could go to and stuff. But the Brown Stadium, there's only one place you can go to, and that's your seat. Go to the bar.
See, the Bengals Stadium, Paul Brown Stadium, they got a bunch of cool stuff that you can go to.
I know they do.
Like they got bars, and they got really good restaurants and stuff like that. And
trust me, I know.
If you have club seats.
Not only. I like the little area. I like that little area. My seats when I went to the Bengals game, I like that little area in the end zone where it kind of like levels off. Where how how the stands kind of like go from high to like lower.
Yeah.
And I like that little area over there where you can still see the game. And it's like I think a restroom right there. You come out of the restroom, the state football field right there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, you mean like the
because I always
do you not have concessions in Cleveland?
No, we do, but I just like how it's just set up because it's set up so like when you're walking around the stadium, you don't miss the game. A lot of football stadiums where if you're not like in your section, you're gonna miss the game. And I was just walking around the stadium because I was walking to the restroom and I came out and I looked out. I was like, oh crap, they're about to score a touchdown. David Njoku scored a touchdown. I started yelling this stuff.
Yeah, fuck you.
No,
so anyway, I think that is probably going to do it. We can't end it on a negative note, but we can definitely end it on a fuck you, because this is a rivalry podcast after all.
And the Steelers still suck.
And the Steelers, we didn't even do that at the beginning of the episode. I'm slacking.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, yeah, we missed that.
So hold on. I'm gonna go back. The Steelers cannot sign J.J. Watt because they're in cap hell, and you know why, Thomas?
Because the Steelers still suck.
Because the Steelers still suck. So there, we got it in. We didn't miss it. Unfortunately, it's not at the beginning of the episode, but whatever. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. You can catch this podcast weekly right now on the Battle of Ohio podcast page on YouTube. During the season, we do 2 episodes a week, and we also do a prediction segment. And right now, we haven't been doing it because we've both been busy. But once we find some time, we're going to try to start doing like some live streams and stuff, like, maybe live stream like a mock draft or a mock off season, or, just doing stuff that maybe wouldn't be like, because these podcasts, we like to talk about news and like what the topics that are kind of popping up and stuff like that. So stuff like this, the live streams would be more so stuff that, like more like fun little tidbits that we don't really have time to do on the podcast itself. But once again, we're both, fairly busy lately. So it's, finding a time to do it's kind of difficult right now. And this is still our first season of doing this. So we're still kind of, figuring out, getting the hang of it, seeing how our schedules work together and stuff like that. But anyway, a lot of stuff in the works. We will be doing more over time, and you definitely want to subscribe to see all that. So definitely click that subscribe button down below and be one of the army of 24 people who have subscribed so far.
Thank you, all 24 of y'all.
All 24 of you. Fantastic. Thank you.
Y'all the best 24 fans that subscribe to the podcast.
I appreciate
podcast ever. Appreciate y'all too.
But yeah, you can find more of what Thomas does at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram, and he's got another page that he does like comedy videos and stuff called Blowdown Page, and I believe you do TikTok stuff as well. You want to tell them where to find you on TikTok?
I bought my TikTok stuff from YouTube, but it's called the Blowdown Page on TikTok. If you want to look,
Okay.
You know, we do our find my Instagram too.
Just wherever you can find, but you can find me at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter and Facebook.com/The Phelps on Facebook, and I got a couple other projects in mind, but none of which have actually popped up yet. So when I do get going on those, I'll let you know. But until then, that's where you can find me. That's where you can find Thomas, and that's where you can find the rest of this podcast. So thanks for listening, everybody. Leave you with a Hoo Day.
Go Browns.